From the Digital Media Center, on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate-level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letts.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English. Ramping Up Your English is for English language learners from all language backgrounds who have already begun the process of learning English as their second language. It's a program for people of all ages. If you're seeking greater English proficiency, this program is designed to help you reach that goal. Ramping Up Your English is a support program for English learners who have already passed the beginning stages of learning English. We take a content-based approach to helping you reach higher English proficiency. We use English to teach English. The theme of our first unit is trains and railroads. This is episode 13, segment 1. During the previous episode, we rode Amtrak's Coast Starlight from San Luis Obispo north through Oakland and Sacramento and on along the Shasta River. We had Mount Shasta fill the window of our viewing car and traveled through a winter's wonderland to Klamath Falls. Today, we hop on the Coast Starlight again, boarding at Klamath Falls Station, built in 1910, to wander further north to Seattle. We'll do a little vocabulary work after the video clip, but for now, it's all aboard the Coast Starlight. Pulling out of Klamath Falls, Amtrak's Coast Starlight heads north. We'll cross the Cascade Mountains and see the Willamette Valley and the Columbia River before ending the day in Seattle.
To see this water, but this is...
Volunteers from the Klamath Falls Visitor Center provide information as the Coast Starlight hugs the shore of Upper Klamath Lake.
On our left is over 60,000 acres. It's the largest freshwater lake in Oregon and one of the largest in the United States. It's about 25 miles long and ranges in width from 2.5 to 12.5 miles. The shoreline is 98 miles in length. Klamath Falls is on the migration route, Pacific migration route, so we have a lot of birds going through here. The entire perimeter of Klamath Lake is wildlife refuge. We call this the Klamath Basin. And any way you want to leave town, you have to go over a mountain. So come winter, we're so glad to have Amtrak.
It's brown coming over with the white foam. And that's called Root Beer Falls.
Last month it was frozen.
Last month it was frozen when we came through here.
Speaking of frozen, the higher we went, the more snow we saw. Here we're near Odell Lake, making a steady climb to Willamette Pass. If you're into railroad engineering, hang on to your heart. You'll love this part of the route. Here we enter one of the many tunnels through the Cascade Mountains. We're in a tunnel. And this is the parlor car in a tunnel. By now the snow was heavy, clinging to the trees, and we were rumbling through a winter's wonderland. Okay, for our rail fans, we're out of a tunnel and coming onto a very high trestle. Then we go into a snow shed. These are built all along this route to protect the tracks from avalanches and snow accumulation. Now we go into a tunnel, see the snow shed receding, and now we're back into another snow shed. And now we're back into another tunnel. And can you believe it? Into another snow shed. and you can see now the exterior view of the snow shed. Southern Pacific put in all this cool engineering back when it opened this route back in the 1920s, the Cascade Route. Descending below snow level, we miss the huge trees that once filled this western Oregon forest. Here we pick up the rain-swollen Willamette River and follow it into Eugene. Eugene through the Willamette Valley to Portland. When you see this tower, you know you're in Portland. And here is a view of a train called the Cascades. There's a lot to see and do in Portland and around Portland along the mighty Columbia River and the Columbia River Gorge. You can see the stunning Willamette Falls and other waterfalls in this area. But we're staying on the Coast Starlight, pulling out of Portland, a typical urban kind of scene along the railroad tracks as we head towards Seattle. We'll be there at nighttime. As its name suggests, Portland is a major shipping port, so it's not surprising to see all these freight cars. Here we're crossing the Willamette River, from which the fertile Willamette Valley gets its name. It's surprisingly wide up this far north. The Columbia River is wider still. Born in the ice fields of Canada, we cross it into the state of Washington and take one look back toward Oregon. At the river port city of Longview, we see wood products and ocean-going ships. From here, we can approach Mount St. Helens, following the Toutle River. At this vantage point, you can clearly see what came from the volcano and clogged the river. The blown-over forest is also evident. A side trip would take you up to the Johnson Visitor Center, and this model that demonstrates all that happened in 1980 when Mount St. Helens erupted. A spectacular multimedia show ends with this dramatic view of Mount St. Helens today. You can walk around and gaze at the reshaped mountain. That May 18th eruption blew the side out of the mountain, reshaping the landscape with a violent force. The devastation was mind-numbing, but nature's gentler side is slowly bringing life back to all that devastation. In fact, the reestablishment of plant and animal life came sooner than most ecologists had predicted. You'd have to get off the train, of course, to see all this, but it would be worth it. Reboarding the next day, you'd have a short ride into Seattle, and that's where the northbound Coast Starlight ends. See you next time on the next rail adventure. I'm John Letts.
Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English. Further up the track, we'll do some vocabulary work. For our book review today, we feature an organization called Rails to Trails. They save abandoned railroad rights-of-way and turn them into recreational trails for the public. Find out more from this video clip. This is a Ramping Up Your English book review. After American Railroad's golden age, thousands of miles of track were abandoned. Rather than see these valuable transportation corridors disappear, an organization called Rails to Trails turns them into trails for bicycling, hiking, and sometimes horseback riding. Members get to see good work that's being done by enjoying the organization's magazine. Each issue features rail trails throughout the country, as well as maps that can help them enjoy them. There are always interesting features like this one on railroad trestles. If you want to receive the magazine, you must become a member. I bought my first copy from a group that supports libraries, but I soon became a member myself to support their important work. Millions of people are enjoying healthy lives by getting outside and using these trails. And if you need something to feel good about, you can always enjoy a Rails to Trails magazine. You can contact Rails to Trails at railstotrails.org. You may never get to drive a train, but you can enjoy hiking and biking where the trains used to pass. For Ramping Up Your English, I'm John Letts.
Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English learners. You can watch and download this program and others by visiting archive.org/details/roguetv. Choose Ramping Up Your English from the sidebar or choose my name, John Letts. You can see this program on Channel 15 in Ashland and Channel 182 on Charter Cable. This is Episode 13, Segment 2. We started this unit with some basic vocabulary about our theme. Researcher Susanna Dutro calls this the brick vocabulary, words that support the content. Since those early episodes, our focus has been on words and groups of phrases that allow us to perform various functions of English, like showing cause and effect or showing the relationship of events that happened in the past. These words are called martyr words by Dutro. They're not words of things or actions or descriptions. Think of them as a brick wall. Just as mortar holds the bricks together so they bear the weight of the wall, martyr words connect the content words to perform the functions of English. Today we're taking another look at content words. Now, there are many railroad-related words that have special meanings to those who work on the railroad and those who take an interest in trains. Those we're saving for a future program. Our list today have to do with communicating about trains and railroads and can be transferred to other topics. Let's start with this list. I encourage viewers to make their own lists of words they hear often in the video clips we feature. Take a look and see if any of your words are on this list. Now, a long list like this can seem overwhelming. By the time you look up all these in the dictionary, you might forget what the first words meant. One way to tame a long list like this is to put the words into groups. You may have some ideas about what these words mean based on how they're used in the video clips, and that's enough of a hunch to start grouping them. You can always move them as you become more certain of their meanings. Let's start with the words that relate to actual physical running of the train, rails, steam, diesel, electric, locomotive. We'll call this Group 1. How about the words that probably have something to do with passenger trains? We have baggage car, platform station, dining car, seats, waiting room, Amtrak. Well, there we have it. That's Group 2. Thinking of an earlier episode when we learned about words describing movement or motion, we have smooth, jerky, bumpy, slowly, and rapidly in our third group. Now the words we may have no idea about: whistle, catch, benches, menu, comfort, intercity. This fourth group is important and should always be done last. So let's get back to that first group. We've heard a lot about these words in many episodes, and we're pretty sure that rails are the straight, parallel structures made of metal that fit the wheels of the train. The word steam comes up when we see those old engines that make a lot of smoke. Diesel electric is the other kind of engine. It doesn't smoke as much. The word locomotive used to be puzzling because of the first four letters that might mean crazy in your native language if your native language is Spanish. But you always hear the word used when showing the engine, so locomotive must be engine. Now let's look at the second group. We had several programs featuring passenger trains, so this group should be a good one for you today. In many clips, the car that holds the suitcases we hear is called the baggage car. You knew enough English to understand that the narration explained that the platform is where passengers get on and off the train. The platform seems to always be at a place called the station, so that must be the building where the passengers get on and off the train, where the train stops. Now, people are always eating when you hear dining car. Seats is a word related to sit, so seats are probably what you sit on in the station, in the waiting room. Now, you've seen a list of food offerings at restaurants with the word menu on top, plus it could be a cognate in your own language. If so, there's no doubt about that one. Now let's look at group 3. This one's easy for you because you watched the episode where we described the train's motion, and these were some of the words. You have high certainty, except the word intercity. It ends with a Y like most of the others, but you don't remember that one, and it's not even on the list you found on my website. Intercity has to now go to the unknown word list. That brings us to list 4 of unknowns. Maybe some of these belong on other lists. So let's start with whistle. If you have no idea, this is a good one to look up in your bilingual dictionary. You find that it's a sound. Wait! The dictionary even says it's a sound made by trains, so we move that to group 1. Now, catch means to entrap or grab, as in catching an animal or catching a ball. Wonder what that has to do with trains. Well, we'll leave that one in the unknown list. Looking up bench, we see that it's a type of seat, and that confirms what seat means, and now we know that bench is a kind of seat. Hey, maybe seat is not just for the waiting room. Maybe it's where you sit on the train. Comfort, no idea. You know what fort is, but how do the letters C-O-M change that to something related to trains? Intercity turns out to be simple. The dictionary tells you that the prefix inter means between, and you know that city, you know what that means, so intercity means between cities. Whew, that's a lot of vocabulary work, but it tells you which one of these words you know and which one you're pretty sure of, and which ones you simply don't know now. Learning a second language means constantly having these lists going around in your head, seeing if you can figure out where they fit. Now you know which words to pay the most attention to. Now, as for the unknown words, ask yourself if they keep you from understanding what you hear and read. If they don't, you can let them go. If they do interfere, you may need to do some more work using a dictionary and digging through every definition listed under the word. The word catch, for example, will not have being on time to board a train as the first or even the second definition, unless it's a glossary in a book about trains. This was about the biggest list of words you'd want to take on at one time. Now, watch another video clip or two and see if you understand more after this video work. You can start with the clip that follows. That's it for segment 2. We'll be back with segment 3 right after this. This is a Ramping Up Your English book review. If you want to go back in time to the very birth of trains and railroads, you want to read the book The History of Railways by Colin Heinsohn from Scholastic Books. The book's format reminds me of eyewitness books with small illustrations and ample text. English learners will find that the text is very challenging and there's a lot of text on each page. The illustrations are clear, providing the context to help readers decipher the text. Historical photos depict important events like the Golden Spike ceremony that joined the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific Railroads as America's first intercontinental railroad. There's a great amount of information in the history of railways. Readers will stretch their English reading skills, but you'll also be rewarded by a deeper knowledge of trains and railroads. Meanwhile, you'll be ramping up your English proficiency, especially in reading. For Ramping Up Your English, I'm John Letts. Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English. a support program for English learners who want to increase their level of English proficiency. If that's you, you're in the right place. This is episode 13, segment 3. Now, if all the vocabulary work in the last segment left you overwhelmed or frustrated, those are frequently the feelings that come with learning a second language. I encourage viewers in an earlier episode to make and keep a list of words you hear repeated in our episodes and in our video clips. That's good advice for improving your English proficiency, but don't feel compelled to know the meaning of every word. Learning a new language is a process that takes time, and just because you discover what a word means doesn't mean that you'll remember it. I asked an English learner about the frustration she felt when she entered school with limited English. Here's what she said during an RVTV program called Adventures in Education. Were there times when you felt frustrated in terms of being able to use English?
Yeah, sometimes you couldn't pronounce the words, sometimes as well as the other kids could, or you couldn't read the phrases as well as the other ones. But I think that with the flashcards we used to do in practice, I think that really helped with the sounds. That really helped to be able to now pronounce as well as the others.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big deal. If you're in school and you're pronouncing something differently than everyone else, they kind of raise their eyebrow and go, what's going on? Yeah, so pronunciation's important. We did use a lot of flashcards and stuff in our instruction. How did you feel when you found out that you had a high enough score to exit from the ESL?
I felt great. I feel like I can finally be able to join the rest and be like the rest and everything.
And joining the rest, I should explain. The students have to leave the classroom, and you really don't know what everyone else is doing while you're gone, but I'm sure sometimes you come back and everyone's all excited about something.
Yeah, and you're like, what the heck just happened? You're like, if somebody explained to me, I feel kind of lost, but now it feels fine to be able to know that you went through that, but that you received help so that now you can help others.
Yeah. So vale la pena,
yeah.
as we love to say in Spanish. It was worth the trouble. Now, how did you feel the next year when a lot of your classmates are going to ESL and you're not going?
Yeah, it felt actually kind of different. You're used to going with some people that you've known since kindergarten, first grade, to the same program every year, and to have them go, it makes you feel like you worked hard enough, that you felt like everything's paid off.
Pronunciation. English has rules of pronunciation just like any other language. A study of those rules, the letter-sound relationship, is called phonics. Learning the relationship between written symbols and the sounds they make is helpful when it comes to pronouncing words. But in English, there are plenty of exceptions to pronunciation rules. That's why I recommend both reading about the unit topic and watching the video clips. You get to hear and see the words and phrases repeated over and over. So while studying phonics is a worthwhile effort, it's not the only way to learn how to pronounce English. Rocio also referred to flashcards. These were cards with pictures or illustrations on them. For each picture card, there was a matching word card. I always had the students learn to identify the pictures first. Then I would have them match the picture with the word card. You don't want to constantly translate words from your home language to your target language. It's best if you learn the English word with the object or thought it represents. That links the word to the idea in your brain. These are vocabulary cards from an educational program called Carousel of Ideas. You can make your own flashcards, either draw pictures or cut out pictures from old magazines. Tape them to the index cards. Then find the English word that matches the picture and write the word on a separate card. And now challenge yourself to match them up. I'm going to show you what that might look like. At the moment, you're not seeing much, but right now, we see a word for locomotive, so that's kind of the word part I was talking about, and this is the picture part. Now what you can do, you can put these upside down on the table. I peeked, you don't let the players do that. And you kind of mix them up. And the way it works, you pick up one from one side of the table. In this case, it's a word platform. And pick up one from the other side of the table. That's not platform, that's the locomotive. So you turn them back upside down and let someone else have their turn. Now, there are some computer-based programs that have you match words to pictures, and also there are websites that offer downloadable flashcards. One very good one is called ESL Kids. I have a link to their website on my website, letscreate.org. They have flashcards on many topics. I recommend transportation to stay with the theme of our unit. Don't worry about the name. Instructional material for children is very powerful when it comes to learning another language, no matter what your age is. Remember that in the video clip, Rocio had to leave her main classroom to receive ESL instruction during the school day. Remember also that she found this challenge worthwhile when she reached a high level of English proficiency. Well, since you can't be two places at once, using Ramping Up Your English will take you away from some activity to work on your English skills. Try to make this as easy as possible. You can watch the program in segments or by episodes. My website is available on smartphones or any device that can access the internet. If you have any suggestions for improving your access to Ramping Up Your English, please let me know on my blog. Go to letscreate.org. That's where you'll find today's episode as well as preceding episodes. You can also get video on demand by going to archive.org/details/roguetv. You can download my programs from that site as well. I want to thank my volunteer crew, my announcer Bob Ayers, and I want to thank you, our viewers. See you next time on RVTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roguetv. Join us next time on RVTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.